Well, it is official. New York will become the 13th state in the nation to legalize euthanasia. Democrat Governor Kathy Hochul has confirmed that she will sign the highly controversial legislation legalizing the practice. With another stroke of her pen, the Empire State has again aligned itself with the growing sad fraternity of governments that deny biblical truth and ignore the founding principles of the nation. Hochul, who eviscerated religious liberty protections during the pandemic and traded the cross around her neck for a gold necklace that said "Vaxxed," is now explaining away her support for state-sanctioned killing, claiming, quote, "the government has a responsibility to protect, not interfere, with an individual's deeply personal decisions." Of course, unless it was getting the bogus COVID shot. She said she hopes to, quote, "speed death for those suffering." Well, no matter her spin, it's another example of left-wing politicians attempting to couch a fundamentally destructive policy in terms of their perverted views of choice and freedom. Hochul and proponents claim that video requests and wait times and medical confirmation that someone has 6 months to live or fewer makes this more humane. Perhaps it's not surprising that the governor, who once told crowds that God wanted them to take the COVID shot, used the Christmas season of light and life to herald her support for legalized suicide. Now she has taken her place as part of a small cadre of leftists who support state-sanctioned killing of human beings across the entire spectrum of human life. As the culture in many places today drifts between secularism and militant atheism, liberalism and Marxism, we are especially vulnerable to the false promise of compassion, reframed as dying with the assent of the state. In Canada, like Europe, which is increasingly socialist and atheist, the numbers of suicides continue to mount since legalization. In 2024, nearly 16,500 people died by their own request, representing 5% of all deaths in Canada and nearly a 7% increase over 2023. In California, the most liberal state in the Union, more than 1,000 people died by state-sanctioned suicide in 2024. That's up from 884 the previous year. As with so much of the left's agenda, euphemisms for this assault on human life abound. Assisted suicide implies that, well, you're not really killing yourself, you're getting needed help to do it. Medical aid in dying is another term that turns this barbarism into a medical procedure or an action that is somehow backed up by science. It all smacks of other entries in their lexicon of social transformation, like gender-affirming care and reproductive health care before it. Americans should expect that, like every other agenda item of the left to remake this country, be it welfare expansion, abortion, drug legalization, transgenderism, critical race theory, DEI, or others, Democrats will seek to aggressively expand legalized suicide. A little more than a half-century ago, abortion was illegal. We were then told that it needed to be safe, rare, and legal. Today, in places like New York, the government celebrates killing human babies. It is legal up to the moment of birth, and it's taxpayer-funded. More than 20 million have been denied their right to life in the greatest stain on the soul of a great nation. It is not hard to imagine that states like New York will create even more permissive environments, devaluing the sanctity of human life, now truly from cradle to grave. The line between life and death is thin, folks, as is the line between good and evil. What started with abortion and transgenderism is snowballing into a full-blown culture of death driven by the same people who think that more dependency on the state is somehow an achievement. Americans and forces for human dignity, like the Catholic Church, must meet this moment with far more than a smattering of social media messages. They must meet this moment with more than some thin expression of disappointment. In our time of AI threats to human flourishing, a global Islamist intifada, rampant anti-Semitism, and emboldened Marxism, we must project out how this manufactured right to die can and will be perverted into something even more insidious. Liberal women like Hochul won't stop it. Boomers and Gen X radical feminists have failed to protect even their own gender from abuse. Young Americans are our hope. They can make their voices heard that this culture of death must be defeated. They can give us hope that somebody in this country truly understands the old maxim that a government that can give you everything can also take it all from you. As we begin 2026, all Americans facing this left-wing assault and our AI-fueled future must acknowledge that giving government an inch means it ultimately will take a mile. Unchecked, no one is safe. An America that truly prospers, however, will be one that chooses to protect life.